everybody, Ryan here from Music City Live. Welcome to Inside the Roadcase. I'm at the 2025 NAMM Show in the Marshall booth with my friend Steve Smith. Steve, thanks so much for hanging out with us, man.
No problem.
And Steve is from the UK, as I just learned. He works actually at Marshall, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And your title there is Product
Specialist.
Product Specialist.
Yeah.
Cool. Man, so, so it's funny, when I was talking to the marketing team yesterday, I told them, I'm like, in our TV show, we have Marshall amps behind me in the shot. We have them on behind, my guests usually in the shot.
Yeah.
The amp that's behind me was Mike Turner from Our Lady Pieces.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. The one behind my guest was actually Gordy Johnson from Big Sugar. It's a Canadian band. And then Gordy gifted it to John Angus from the Trues. John sold it to me. So we're super proud of having those pieces in our shots. So it's great that we could come to Marshall and chat with you. For young people that are checking this out, obviously all the veterans out there that are players know all about Marshall and the history, but for those people out there that are younger, where did Marshall start, and sort of, how did it get from where it is now to today?
Yeah, Marshall, we were there at the beginning, really. We started in 1962, where Jim Marshall and his son Terry opened a music store. But prior to that, Jim was actually a professional drummer. A lot of people don't know he wasn't even a guitar player.
Okay.
He was a drummer. His son Terry, who he opened a store with, played saxophone. So it's quite funny to think that two guys who started like the biggest amp company in the world didn't even play guitar, which is hilarious.
That is hilarious.
Yeah. But they opened a store. They used to get a lot of musicians coming into the store, kind of wanting a certain thing, wanting a certain sound. That the current amps at the time weren't really offering. So that's when they started to make their own amplifiers in the back of the shop. Again, it was just Jim and his son Terry, a guy called Ken Brown as well, who was like a service guy and who used to repair amps for them out the back. Dudley Craven, who helped design the first ever Marshall, but that was way back in '62 where we made the JTM 45.
Yes.
And that was the #1 amp.
And I had one of those in at one point.
Yes.
We did. We had one that got traded in, and it was one of the original. It was way back. It was early '70s, and I think it ended up selling for like 10 grand Canadian.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine. It was kind of from there, the Ranger group. Instead of just offering one amplifier out, people wanted even more volume, even more options, so they started to make the blues breaker combos. Then it went into the 50 watt, 100 watt plexis, that kind of thing. And then obviously those amps got into the hands of some of the biggest names in rock and roll guitar. You had like Eric Clapton, Pete Townshend from The Who, and then Jimi Hendrix, of course, which then changed the world.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and even though we've done a lot of products since those days, a lot of changes, we offer so many products now. Those early designs are still kind of the iconic sound of rock that people want to hear from those amps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So how is things like, is a lot of this stuff still made in the UK? Like,
yes.
How much is still made in the UK?
Most of the catalogue, actually. We do have some more competitively priced products which are obviously made in our factory. We've got a Marshall factory in Vietnam.
Okay.
And
that's owned by Marshall, run by Marshall.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And that does a lot of the lower price products.
Yeah.
But anything from the Studio series, which are like mini Marshalls, if you like.
Yeah.
All the Plexis, the 800s, the 900s, the Jubilees, it's all made in Milton Keynes in Bletchley in the UK.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And all hand wired.
Yeah, there's certain models which aren't, so we still offer a 100 watt Plexi, which is hand wired. We've just released a modified Plexi and a modified 1959, which is still hand wired. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how long have you been with the company now?
I've been there 11 years.
So that's a bit.
Yeah.
Like, how have things sort of evolved in the last, let's say, since you've been there, but even let's say the last 20 years or so? How have things evolved product-wise?
Product-wise, I'd say the biggest development for us as a company, because it's a tricky one being Marshall, because kind of you're known for a thing and people always want that thing.
Sure.
If you move away from it too much, you might lose your identity. So I think the biggest game changer for us was to offer all of the classic Marshalls, like the 800s, the 59s, the Jubilees, JTMs, in a smaller format. So that's why we introduced the Studio range, which gives you all of the same features as the big amps, but with less wattage. So it's like 20 watt or 5 watt variants. We've looked at the digital stuff as well. We released a code amplifier a good few years ago now.
Yep.
Which is kind of a modeling kind of situation, kind of lower end product. But moving forward, there's obviously a lot of talk of what we'll be doing next. So.
Sure. And how's the response? Like you said, you know, people are always looking for that classic Marshall thing. How's the response been to some of the newer product that you guys have put out?
Good.
Yeah.
Because we always try and keep that Marshall DNA there. But like, for example, with the new modified amps, a lot of people expect sometimes a Marshall sound, which they're hearing on records, particularly with some of the more modern bands, where it's not just the amp, it's the amp driven by a pedal. In front. So that was the idea with the modified series, was to give people the classic Marshall 800 sound or the 1959 sound, with switchable gain options and things like that, and more controllable volumes. So.
Sure. And has there been a push for, you know, for artist feedback and stuff over the last 20 years, a push to make things smaller? Is that a thing?
Depends on the artist. I mean, a lot of the artists we deal with, obviously they're still playing big stages, and things like that. So to be honest, man, that's still a lot of the big stuff.
Sure, yeah.
But obviously for the smaller gigs, or if they're doing studio work, they are in favour of the studio range of smaller formats.
Sure.
And we are obviously looking at products which allow people to get the Marshall tone for maybe using other setups. For example, we've just released some overdrive pedals based on the classic amps. There's like an 800 pedal, a 900, 959 pedal.
We got that out. Yeah,
So if you're a guitar player that's just flying in with your guitar and you're relying on a backline company and you've got a clean amp as backline, you can still get your signature kind of Marshall sound from those pedals.
Amazingly, yeah. What's the direction that you guys are going? Like, are you trying to incorporate, let's say, because there's a bunch of companies incorporating more digital into the products. Like, what's the direction that you guys are headed, do you think?
We are looking at that at the moment, but again, we don't just want to go straight into the route of just doing modeling because everybody else is.
Sure.
So we are looking at incorporating some features into our amps in the future, which obviously probably make it a little easier to use for home recording and things like that.
Sure.
And even more portable systems where you might not even have an amplifier. You might want the Marshall tone in a smaller box. We're looking at all those kind of things. There's nothing obviously there this year, but that's on our roadmap for discussion. Nothing finalised, but it's all on our radar.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in terms of the future of the company, is there any kind of big shifts, any changes, anything that's going to be coming down the pipe, or is it business as usual going forward?
Business as usual, yeah. Like I say, people are aware there's a lot of changes and a lot of things happening within the company, but it doesn't affect the Marshall UK factory still making the amps. It always will.
Yeah.
That's always been part of the deal. We're always going to make products for the guitar players. So really, as far as the boots on the ground go, for the guitar players, they won't see anything different apart from lots more new products.
And how many people are working in the factory in the UK? How many people?
It's a changing number, but it's not a lot. It's probably like around 200-ish. But we are looking to recruit and things like that. So yeah, I mean that's an ever-changing number for us at the moment. So yeah. But it's not a huge mass-produced kind of setup. When people come and visit the factory, they're actually quite surprised how hands-on it is. There's just a small group of people putting the amps through, and you know, a lot of it's still done by hand. So
yeah. Wicked. Well, dude, thanks so much for chatting with me, Steve. I appreciate it, man. Hey, everybody, Ryan here from Music City Live inside the Roadcase at the 2025 NAMM Show in the Marshall booth. Thanks so much for stopping in, and we'll see you on the next episode.